All right, so today we're getting into a really personal story. And, it's not one of those epic tales of overnight success. It's something I think a lot of us can actually relate to.
So right off the bat, the author, Sumit, he just lays it all out there. He's basically saying, hey, forget everything you think you know about success stories. This isn't that. This is about what it's like to go through the really hard stuff.
And really, this is who he's writing for. I mean, if you've ever been slapped with that label, that feeling that you're just not good enough, then yeah, this one's for you. It's all about how you keep going, even when you feel like you're being left in the dust.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, right? His childhood. He calls it the spark and the shadow, which, wow, what a perfect way to describe the kind of rhythm that shaped his early life.
It kicks off with this one small, bright moment. Back in 5th grade, Sumit got 3rd place in a drawing competition for Diwali. And it was just one of those moments of pure happiness. He talks about his parents' smiles feeling like actual sunlight, and this tiny ribbon on the fridge, to him, it felt like winning an Olympic medal.
But of course, that feeling, it didn't stick around. That little ribbon, that spark, it was like this tiny, bright island in the middle of a huge, dark ocean. And that ocean, well, that was his report card. Just a sea of barely passing that always felt like it was about to pull him under. And this is the key takeaway, right? He noticed this pattern super early on. You get this little flash of victory, this tiny spark, and then just a long, quiet stretch of struggle. That whole tiny spark, long hush thing, that became the soundtrack to his life for a long, long time.
Now, this whole struggle wasn't just about grades, not at all. It spilled over into his social life in a big way, which leads to this next part he calls, fittingly, alone in the crowd.
And this question just hits you, right? What does cruelty sound like when it's silent? It makes you think about all the ways people can hurt you without ever saying a word. It's about the things they don't do, the things they don't say.
For him, it was all these little things that added up. Like, the way people would just look away when he walked by. It's a kind of silent judgment that you just feel deep down.
Or how about this? The empty seat next to him in class that nobody ever sat in. I mean, what a loud, clear message that is without anyone saying a single thing. It just makes you feel like you're not even there.
And then the whispered jokes. The kind you're not supposed to hear, but you always do. Every one of them just hammered home that below average label, until it felt like that's all he was. So all of this constant rejection, it really took a toll. He started doing things to cope, eating by himself, always walking a few steps behind everyone else so he wouldn't be in the way. But what's interesting is, it also pushed him to be independent in a way. He went online, found people in forums, and just started teaching himself how to build things. He was building this quiet kind of strength, this resilience, all on his own. And to make things even harder, there's this other layer of struggle happening at home. The constant comparison to his younger sister, Aditi. She was just brilliant. Everything seemed so easy for her. And he loved her, of course, but her success, this bright light, it just made his own fight for every little win feel, well, pretty small and pointless.
And all of this, it leads to a really critical moment in his story, a breaking point, really, a time when the weight of the academic failures and the social isolation just became unbearable.
So academically, things just went off a cliff. He managed to pass class 10, but that was during COVID, and it gave him this false sense of security. Then in class 11, his dad spent his savings on coaching, but he still fell behind. And by class 12, after giving it everything he had, he failed. Just like that, all his hope was gone. And that failure, it took him to a really dark place. Literally, the roof of his building. He talks about just standing there, looking down at the quiet city and thinking about just ending it all. But then, right there in that absolute darkest moment, a thought broke through. And it wasn't about him. It was about his parents. He suddenly realized that all of their sacrifices, everything they had poured into him, all of it would just be wiped out. It was just a tiny thought, a little voice, but it was enough, and he stepped back.
So, okay, what happens after that? What happens when you step back from the edge? Well, this last part of the story is all about the recovery, and it wasn't some big dramatic turnaround. It was just a slow, deliberate process of taking one small step after another.
The path forward wasn't flashy or exciting. It was actually pretty simple. He went back to school, he cleared his class 12 exams, He got into a B.Tech college, and it was there almost by pure chance that he stumbled upon coding.
And I just love how he describes this. He says, for the first time, logic made sense to him, the way colors make sense to a painter. In coding, something finally clicked into place. You write a line of code and you get a result. Building these small things that actually worked started to fill this empty space inside him. For the first time in a long time, he felt useful. He felt capable.
And this completely changed how he saw progress. It wasn't about being top of the class or landing some fancy job title anymore. For him, success became something much more fundamental. It was about the act of just getting up in the morning and trying again and again.
And that's pretty much where he is now. This isn't some happily ever after story. He's super clear about that. He still struggles. He fails more than he succeeds, he says. But he's stubborn, he's hopeful, and the most important thing, he hasn't stopped trying. He's still in the game, he's enduring.
So in the end, his story really just leaves us with this one question for ourselves. It takes everything he went through, from that little third-place ribbon all the way to finding purpose in code, and it puts it right back on us. It asks us, when we're facing our own struggles, to stop worrying about the huge impossible victory, and instead just ask, what is the absolute smallest next step you can take today?